got plenty of things to work on, and we're just now getting down to it. I did have a huge mess in here, but I got it mostly straightened up. There's a whole bunch of shit here. Now it's over on the wall, on the shelves. I mean, still needs some straightening up to do, but mostly everything's sorted. I kind of tagged stuff. Certain things have labels on them. I'm gonna be putting more labels on everything else, but we're gonna dive right into this video and get shit cracking, back to what we used to be. So trying to get videos out once a week, maybe more, maybe less, depending on how much work comes through, but we'll see how it goes. But I'm gonna pull these cars out quick, and then we'll get rolling on to what this video is actually about. Every time I start that thing, bro, every time, I just want to take it for a rip. Got so much stuff to do yet before I put that thing back, like, on the road. I'm not sure actually what I'm gonna do with it. I got two things in mind, something that might surprise y'all. So some of y'all know who it is. So I'm not sure yet, but whatever happens, I'll fill y'all in. So this is what we're working on today. My buddy Ty's white EF hatch. It's a DX. We're going to be installing a harness into this car and getting a base mat put on it, getting some of the fuel ironed out so we can drive it, possibly get a dyno tune in the future, maybe by me, maybe by Rolo. He hasn't decided yet, but if he goes to Rolo, that's totally fine. Rolo is awesome. Rolo built this motor, degreed and everything. So fill you in on this motor. So it's a built motor. It's a LSV, CTR pistons, stage 3 BC cams, titanium retainers, all the good stuff, you know. So this is actually the same manifold I had on my car, except this is a 1320 variant, which mine was not. Mine was like eBay rep. It's probably why it was so junk. But yeah, so we're gonna get the harness installed on this bad boy. It's full E85. He's got the flex fuel sensor. It's gonna be on straight E85 for now, so I'll be experimenting with that already. I already have the base map uploaded on the ECU. I went and I saw about this car before. I was gonna just install the base map and stuff, but we ran into some harness issues, coolant temp sensors, stuff like that not being wired up, and just a whole bunch of buggy stuff. So I was like, man, you should probably just replace the harness. So we're gonna dive into this. The harness going into this car is actually a Monotech harness. I have never installed one of these before, but it is pretty much straightforward. Everything looks pretty nice. Very well taped and loomed. Connectors are done well, you know. So that's great. Jumper harness comes with instructions. Charge harness from alternator. As you can see, it says Monotech. Everything looks really nice. All the ground leads, everything. So this is really nice. The quality so far looks really freaking good. So I can't wait to put this in and get this car on the road. So we're gonna start off by unplugging all of the sensors, the injectors from the clips. These are adapter clips because I believe these are E46 style connectors. So we have, these are actually OBD2 clips, right? EV46 to like OBD2. So we're gonna have to take those off, and we have other clips coming. I already have other clips actually. So the new harness will be OBD1 to EV46, I'm pretty sure. And so we just gotta remove all these connectors, pull the harness back basically, and then pull it all into the chassis, and then go from there. There were a few connections that we tried to wire in a coolant temp sensor, so we'll have to be reversing that, making sure the chassis harness is basically all there, so that when we hook up the Monotech harness, it's all pretty much straightforward and ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these all these connectors taken off, see what we can do about pulling it into the chassis, and then we can go from there and run the engine harness, and then basically plug everything up, and we should be good. So pretty much straightforward. Just gonna tidy up the fuse box and stuff inside there so that it's all good. And then we also have a power issue. So when we tried to start it last time, he went to key on, and when he went to crank, it just, something popped. So I think he might have either blew a relay, blew a fuse, or the main relay took a shit. So we'll see what happens. If I have to buy a new relay, that's fine. So we'll see what happens, but I'm gonna get this unplugged, pull it all into the chassis, and we can go from there. And we out. Alright, sorry about the LED. You see it fluctuating and whatever. I never really like peeped exactly what's going on down here, but there is a whole lot of shit happening under here that we're gonna have to straighten up. So this is the jumper harness that we were trying to use previously. We're gonna unplug that because it came with one. So this is gonna come off, and then any of the wires that we messed with back here or that are broke, we're gonna have to fix. From there, then we can cut the tape that's on that stuff out there, pull all the stuff in here, and see what has to be lengthened, shortened, adjusted, taped up, you know, make it look nice. So what is this? Oh wow. So it looks like the jumper harness has wires wired in to factory harness. It's odd. I know that these blue we had added in for the coolant temp sensor, but that still didn't work. So I'm gonna evaluate this, and then I'll catch right back up with you guys. All right, so as you can see, this jumper has so much stuff like wired into it. I'm not sure what any of that is actually. This is why I say most people just go with the whole harness, because this type of shit you don't want to deal with down the road, especially with this old wiring, bro. This is not it. So I'm gonna have to untape whatever's out there. I already got the chassis part separated. I'm gonna have to connect these two back up to the original wiring here, but that's pretty much separated. That's ready to go. Connect those back up, and then I have to pull whatever this is out. I gotta untape the harness over here, untape all this, see what's under it, and go from there. So I'm gonna try and knock this out real quick, and we'll catch back up when we're putting the harness in. Yeah, if your stuff looks like this, man, you really want to just get it in order, you know. This is not something you want to do from factory. So this car, I guess the ignition switch might have went out. They wired it for however through their own setup for the ignition. There's a push button. I think that's the horn. That might be the ignition, I'm not sure, but I think there's a push start ignition on here. So I'm gonna have to like remember to make sure that is there. But you always want this stuff working like factory. If it works as factory, all of the brain power is taken away, and you just fix how factory would fail. Like, it's just a lot easier to figure out if something fails than to go through someone else's wiring where colors aren't coded and shit like that. So but we're getting it handled. So again, like this, all this stuff I'm gonna have to unravel and pull in whatever needs pulled in, and retape and stuff like that, which is no biggie. I want to make it look clean, but all this, most of the stuff that's not used is going to go back in and taped up inside. But yeah, I'm going to pull all this off, pull the harness back through, which is this piece and this piece basically, and then the rest of the stuff will be taped and looked real neat. So almost out. Just like that, the engine harness is inside the car. It's basically ready to come out of the car, basically. I believe these are map sensor wires, which they're already factored into the harness that we have now, so these aren't going to be used. Usually I would cut the map sensor off, but it's already been cut off because this car was recently OBD1 swapped. But when we went to go put a base map on it, everything was just a little bit freaking weird. Sensors, stuff like that, reading voltage when it shouldn't, you know, so it was just, everything was a little odd. So yeah, this is all ready to come out. And about to pull it drone out. Alright, so boom, I got the old engine harness out, which is right there. So all we're gonna have to do now is clean up some of this wiring, tidy it up, connect this back to these, because I disconnected those to hook up a coolant temp sensor, but I think I might have not done it correctly because it didn't work. So but yeah, so I'm gonna hook those back up, so then the harness should be fine. That'll plug in and basically be done. But I'm going to clean them up, tape them up. If I have loom for it, I'll loom them, and then finish wrapping this stuff up, taping all this stuff, looming it, and then I'm hooking it all back up. So into the engine harness is integrated the wiper motor, so I'll have to just tie that up, tape it, make it look nice. So I'm gonna get cracking on that real quick, and then we can start putting in the harness and see what happens. Got this taped up. I'm gonna try and find a nut and a clip, something to hold this like this, just to make it look nice and clean. But yeah, that's taped up. Can move on to the inside, start taping everything inside here. I'm gonna finish the ends of the loom here for these were previously done. I'm just gonna finish the end of them and then tape down as a unit, because these are basically only the chassis plugins, and then that goes to the body. So these are previously done. These are fuse box, and then these get plugged into, yeah, so they both get plugged in here, and this one goes across to the other side. So we'll get them taped on up and come check you out when we're taped. Alright, so I got repurposed some of the stock loom and terminated the end here. So all this is looking good. This will plug into the harness, fuse box. And then so when I first tried putting a base map on this car, I realized there was no coolant temp sensor. So we wired one in. It still didn't work. I'm not sure if the coolant temp sensor is bad, but I have to connect these two wires back to this red with white and green with white. And then once that's done, we can loom this up, and then from there we should be able to plug the harness in, feed it through the firewall, and plug it into the engine. Still, I'm gonna have to sort out the ignition issue, or the ignition wiring, and the power from the battery, because there was this junction box which we still could be able to use. The factory wiring that he brought with it, or the wiring he brought with it, we should be able to make this work. So I'm gonna get this all taped up, looking nice, and then we'll catch back up when we're putting the harness in then. Alright, so that part of the harness is loomed up. He's again repurposed some previous loom to kind of make it look nicer. So that'll plug into the jumper right there, and then the jumper will plug into the ECU. And I still, I think 3 of these are the map sensor for the OBD0, because that's not on the engine harness. and I'm not sure what the other two are for. So I know there are a few wires left over, but we'll see what happens. I might just zip tie them in case we need them for something. I don't think we need these though. Pretty sure. I'm almost 1000% definite. So go ahead and plug the jumper in. These two will plug into the harness, which then goes out to the engine. So we're gonna go ahead and push the harness through the firewall now and get it ready to be put on the motor. Alright, now with that harness pushed in, we can now install it on the factory connectors. So, we're sliding it in a little bit. So we have the alternator, we have the knock, or oil pressure, I'm sorry. We have injectors. I believe they have factory color wiring to them. And then we have intake air temp sensor right here. Further out, we have the other plug that goes on the opposite side over there. And then we have map TPS and idle air control valve, I think this is. Or this might be the coolant temp on the thermostat housing. Because I think he'll make this harness to your specs. If you don't have an IACV, you don't get the plug, you don't need it. So this may not have it, or this might be it. Let's get this thing buttoned up quick. Start plugging in everything. Alright, so far I like this harness. It's not labeled, but what he does use, which is really nice, is factory OBD1 wiring color. So it's yellow with a red stripe, green, and then white. This is the map sensor, and then this one obviously is the TPS, because they're how close in relation they are. And I think this might be IACV. I'm pretty sure it is, but yeah, so this harness is coming along really nice. This is the way I think it wanted to be ran. So coolant temp sensor and ground here. And then the injectors, intake air temp sensor, map sensor, TPS, and the alternator plugs all want to run out over on this way. And then this plug will be plugged into this connector right here. And I'll set up a thing for that. But the way I think this wanted to be ran over here is because, again, factory OBD1 injector wire color: brown, red, blue, yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm pretty sure they want to be ran this way. And then the intake air temp sensors right here. So this harness, it's pretty decent. I like it. Labels would be nice, but this harness, it's beautiful. It is really beautiful. We have the OBD0 reverse switch plugs right here, but he has the OBD1 actual switch. So I think I have a harness I could cut, and then we could make it able to be plugged in. So I'm going to talk to him and see what's up with that. But other than those two plugs, that one, I mean, the map sensor, TPS, injectors, because we need injector clips to go from regular Honda stuff to Snakeage Performance 850s, I believe they are. But we need to go from that down to this, basically. So, if you guys can see that. I think this is EV46. And this is stock, like Deca style injector plug. So, he has the clips already. So, once those are here, plug that up. And yeah, it's looking really clean. If you were to get a grommet right here, if you were to find one or something, that thing would look, it would just make the whole harness perfect. Like, you can barely even tell there is a harness on here, like, to be honest. Like, other than just seeing some of the wiring, like, barely, it looks like there's no harness on here. That's how clean it is. Way better than this junk. So the only things that plug in here now are these two plugs into the jumper, and then these two plugs into this and this piece. And internally, this is finished other than the fuse box, which I'm going to be putting in right after this. So I'm gonna get these plugged in real quick, and we can move on. I'll probably head home for tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow to get whatever finished and get got to get the clips from my buddy and get the base map on the ECU, get it, see if we can get it started. All right, so harness is hooked up, fuse box is hooked up. The only thing left to go is the charge from the alternator to the fuse box, and then the power from the battery straight to the fuse box. So this goes from the alternator to the fuse box, and then we're gonna have to sort out the power cable, whichever way we're gonna do it, using that splice block or running it straight to the starter, and then having the starter go to the fuse box. That's how it's set up in my CRX, and I haven't had any issues with it, but we'll see what happens. Probably next clip though. So I'm gonna head home, I'm tired, and then tomorrow when we get back, put this on. We also have to put on the ground straps. There's a couple on the car currently. This one, there's one on the valve cover. So I'm gonna change those out. There are a total of 4 grounds. Yeah, 4 grounds, so we can make a few more connections, but I'm gonna head out for now. See y'all next clip. Alright, we back. We're gonna finish up Tyler's hatch today. Only things left to do are put on the grounds, charge harness for the alternator. We have to sort out the power from the battery because it was ran to a junction block, and that was split power to the fuse box and then to the starter to start the vehicle. So we have to do those 2 things yet, and then I also have to figure out the ignition system that he's got in this car, because I think his ignition cylinder went out and he's got everything rewired. Worst come to worst, I'll just put his ignition wire for the starter back on the starter, pull the one that's on there off because that one's through the harness, and then he can continue to use his setup that he got here. But I'm gonna contact him, see what he wants to do. Maybe we can get it back to factory, because obviously that's a lot better, but we'll see what happens. I'm gonna contact him real quick, and then we can get cracking on this. But this is almost together. Once we have all of the harness in, he's bringing coolant. We are going to give this thing its first start. I got a base map on the ECU real quick. I'll run through that with you guys, but it's on ethanol, so he has some E85 here. I'm gonna actually go pick up 5 more gallons because it's been sitting for a couple weeks, so I don't want it to be like weird. So we'll do that, and we'll get this thing its first start. I'm excited, seeing as this is a brand new motor. We're gonna have to break in the camshafts. We'll do like a heat cycle, have to change the oil before we drive it, and then do some small driving, clean up the fuel table what we can, because it is open header, so it's gonna be hard to sample the fuel and the exhaust. So we just have to play it by ear, kind of, sort of, and just make sure it's on the leaner side than richer side. And obviously we're not doing full throttle pulls. That'll get done on the dyno, but I'm gonna contact him real quick. We're gonna get back to doing this thing and finishing it up and getting this thing started. All right, so don't mind this red wire. That's the ignition wires and stuff. But the harness is together. Then I reused his power distribution block and repurposed some of the harness that he had originally. So we have power to the fuse box, we have the alternator power, we have the harness plugged in, we have the jumper harness plugged in. I still have to put in the wideband signal right here into B6, which is going to be our input for wideband. And then we have the starter power from the battery right here. I put heat shrink on it. Got that all sorted out. I'm waiting on him to bring the clips for the injectors. Then we can finish plugging in just those 2 things, integer temp injector, and then that final plug. From there, we're doing, I'm gonna put the grounds on real quick, bust those out, and then this engine's ready to start, to be honest. once I have the clips, once we have the coolant in it, it's good to start. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna put the wideband in to the ECU on B6 and straighten this up a little bit, make it look a little nice. Unfortunately, you get what you get with the harness. So we have what we have, you know. The ECU I'm gonna put on the plugs, obviously, and then try and hang it on the posts as it should be. So it's gonna sit in the back, and then this stuff will just be in front of it. When you do relocate this stuff, unless you're taking the harness down all the way back to where it's bare bones and rewiring it and shortening what you need to, you're never gonna get the fit perfect. But this fits pretty well. Once the ECU is in and we can see where everything's gonna finalize, I can zip tie stuff up out of the way, and so that it's not gonna be stepped on, punched, crunched, you know, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna wire in the wideband real quick, plug it into the back of the harness on B6, because that's our input for the S300 for the wideband. I'm gonna hook the battery up, and I'm gonna see if it'll crank. I'm gonna obviously keep the starter undone. I mean the ECU, keep the ECU unplugged, but I'm gonna crank it and see if it cranks. If it cranks, then we know that we can take all of his ignition starter signal wiring that his buddy did for him, take that all out, and it can just go on the factory thing again. So we'll see what's going on with this, and we'll catch right back up. All right, we got 2 of the Monotech grounds hooked up. Have one from the trans, or from the engine and block to the chassis, and I have one from the valve cover to the chassis. Have all the wiring situated. I have the wideband into the jumper harness that feeds into the ECU for the correct pin. Fuse box is all good. I hooked the battery up. So originally he had the ground here, which I just wasn't really a big fan of that. So I moved it to the center portion here. Obviously he's gonna have to put it somewhere, so that's not a bad spot. Power's on, and we don't have power. Nothing. No power, nothing. So I'm gonna check power at the fuse box, see what's there, see if there's power. There should be. So, well, let's diag. All right, I'm gonna try and find a good ground and check for power at the fuse box, which should be from this wire here. 12 volts. I have no voltage on the opposite side, which means this fuse is blown. Oh, it's not making contact. What the heck? Okay, good ground. Good ground. Give me a fucking ground, bro. Okay, it's not making contact. So I have to just adjust the fuse or get the correct fuse, because it looks like 2 of these aren't long enough. So, or make something that would work. So give me a sec. So it turns out those fuses don't look like they're the correct ones. So I'm gonna disconnect the battery, take the fuses out, and I probably will have to grab 2 fuses, but that's most likely the issue, because I'm touching them and making a connection, and everything's coming on. So I have to find what's up with those fuses, get the correct ones, and put them in. All right, so it turns out I just needed to tighten these screws. The fuse isn't the right length, but it's still making a connection. I'm gonna tell them about it. We need to replace these 2 because they're not the correct ones. They need to be longer, like this one. So this one is longer all the way and has a hole in it. This one has an open end, but it's short. It makes the touch, but we definitely need to get these out here and get the correct ones in. But those are on. I'm going to connect the battery and see if we have power. I heard it beep. See what happens. Why are these on? Okay, well the fuel pump's coming on. I don't believe there's any fuel in the tank, so should be good. Oh, I just noticed there's no washers underneath the injector, so we're gonna have to get those and put washers under there because that can cause a vacuum leak. I don't have any on my car, luckily. Maybe that's what I've been fighting with the idle, is the vacuum leak, but we're gonna have to get washers under there. But fuel pump's coming on, power's coming on. Real quick, I'm going to see if the car cranks. The injectors are not plugged in, ECU's plugged in, but it's not going to spray fuel. So let's just give it a test crank and see if she fires. Well, see if she cranks, because that is one thing he was fighting, obviously, with all this ignition wiring stuff. So here's the fuel pump. It's loud as shit. I don't want to keep doing that too much because of there's a check engine light on, so we'll have to see what that is, but it cranks. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, that makes me so happy. I'm gonna hit him up right now and see what's up, so I'll be right back. All right, sweet. So he's almost here. I think his starter might be going out because it's just clicking now. I have a jump box on it though. But I'm going to put some fuel in it, and as soon as we get here, I can plug the laptop up and see what the check engine light is on for, and then we can figure that out and go from there and give it a crank. So as soon as he gets here, we'll catch right back up. I just put some fuel in the car. I tapped on the starter, like not hard, but just surface, like tight, tap, tap, tap with a hammer to see maybe if the starter was going bad. I'm plugging in the laptop now. We're gonna get the S300 load up with the base map, and then I'm gonna shut off the injectors and crank it so it has oil pressure, check for fuel leaks. If it's all good, we are gonna give it a crank. So, all right, so I have the file open here. I made this file at his house when I first tried to get the car running, and then we figured out the harness issue. So this is basically a stock P30 map. I re-indexed the breakpoints, so low cam, high cam, all that re-indexed. I set all of the parameters and all the settings for this already, and then I added 40% fuel for E85. So I'm going to plug in the USB. I'm gonna have Ty turn the key to accessory, and then we can get live with ECU. So go ahead, hop in there, put it to accessory. You don't have to start or anything. Nothing?
No lights.
Okay. Okay, well, we have to hook up the battery. Oops. Authenticity at its finest. All right, we got the battery on now. Go ahead, you don't have to push the clutch down. Just turn it to accessory. Here, the fuel pump. Go ahead, do it again. Make sure that it has fuel. Again? Yeah, keep going. You have to do it a couple more times to get the air out of line and stuff. Looks like we have 35 psi base pressure, which we'll probably bump that up to about 40. Okay, I don't see any leaks, which is good. We're going to get live with the ECU, which is the lightning bolt. What happened? S300? What happened? Alright. Alright, so my computer had to update, but key on real quick. Get live.
Nope.
What the heck? Alright, it's starting to rain. I'm pretty sure I got the fixed the issue. It was needed the update. S300 needed an update as well, so we're live. This file is on the S300, so you can key off, key back on. And Make sure nothing's on the engine bay, and then we could probably start it. All right, go ahead, give her a crank.
Should I give it any gas or just?
No, just see what it does without the pedal at all. Okay. Key up. So I think his battery's dead. We just cranked it and it's slow cranked. So I'm like almost 100% certain that his battery is just a little bit on the weaker side. So we're gonna pull the one from the Rex, put it in there, make sure everything cranks, maybe fires, sounds is operable. Then we're gonna put coolant in it tomorrow and get some of the map dialed. So I'm gonna pull this out here real quick. All right, stole the battery from the Rex. That bad boy's in here. We're gonna get the fucks in. So before we started, I'm gonna pull the plugs and I'm gonna pull the injectors off so there's no fuel, no spark. I'm gonna unplug the distributor. We're gonna crank to get oil pressure, brand new motor, you need that so you don't fuck the bearings. We'll do that real quick. Once it has oil pressure, then we can hook everything up and give it a crank. All right, so we pulled the plugs, pulled the injectors. I actually checked the plug gap, they're at 37, 38 thousandths, so that's good. We're gonna crank it now. I unplugged the distributor as well. We're gonna crank it, get oil pressure, and then we're gonna put everything back up and give her a go. You wanna crank it for me? Distributor's unplugged. Yeah, is the oil pressure light still on? Just crank it until the oil pressure light goes out. It'll go up?
No. Talking about.
Yeah, keep going. It'll take a while. But you hear how the RPM's getting smoother? Oil pressure light went out. Cool. We're gonna plug everything back in and give her a go. Alright, key on or key on. Go give her a crank. Quick, go quick. Sometimes that'll kick it over. Yeah, I think it's the starter. Go ahead, do it again while I tap. Alright. 30th time's the charm, right? Key on. Go ahead, crank it, see if she fires. Alright. So it looks like the starter's the issue. I believe this is a GSR starter. I'm not sure, I gotta figure that out. But if that is, I'm just gonna put it on, and if it works, he can have it. That's cool, I need it out. But if it's not, then we'll have to figure out what we do by getting a starter and getting this thing somewhat semi-bass tuned. So cleaned up the grounds, it didn't work. So I think it's a starter issue. So yeah. Alright, well, we're having starter issues. So we're gonna get the starter, we're gonna get the coolant, we're gonna get the water, the overflow. We are going to prime it again and try and start it again. So I was able to connect to the S300 finally. Updated my computer and updated S300, so it's basically where we're gonna leave off for this one, guys. Next time we'll be getting this thing started, get this thing running, do some tuning on it. I'm gonna do my best to tune the AFR because it's open header, and at low throttle, high lift cams like this, you have a lot of overlap, a lot of pulsation, so you're gonna get a lot of natural air basically. So but yeah, that's all for this one, guys. Catch you in the next one. Deuces.